Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back with another interesting topic on Vedic astrology. And today we'll be talking about marriage and relationship compatibility. And as we know, that forms a very, very important part of our lives. Compatibility between spouses, between partners, even if you're in a relationship or if you're in a marriage. And this is one technique which is used very extensively in India and has been used through the ages to find whether of course, there were no relationships in early days in India. I mean, brides and grooms were chosen by the parents, and then before they were chosen to get married, or while they were considering, the girl and the boy's parents used to get a compatibility chart done. And this compatibility chart was done to ensure that the married life could be very, very successful, or should be very successful, and it should not run into problems or any kind of a divorce. Of course, there was no concept of divorce in India. In Hinduism, there's no concept of divorce, so it's imperative that they did that compatibility through this ancient Vedic astrology technique, so that we do not reach that point where the bride and the groom could be separated. So the same technique can be applied in today's day and age in relationships, not necessarily marriage, any kind of a marital relationship or a romantic relationships, which happens between the boy and the girl, so that it should not run into problems. Now, this matching is also called Guna Milan or Guna Milan. There are different names for this. And this Milana or compatibility analysis is based on the position of moon in both the boys and the girls' horoscopes. Basically, that's what it is. And points are allotted, and the maximum number of points, as you can see on the screen, is 36. If you add all the points given under various categories, it is 36. And a lot of people do use this technique. Of course, one thing I'm going to mention is, do not base your compatibility analysis just on this technique. This is one of the important techniques. There are several others which we'll be discussing in forthcoming videos. But this is extremely important because moon is a very important planet in our lives, because moon is closest to the earth, and based on the position of moon, this compatibility analysis has been devised by the ancient sages so that relationship is good. Now, a lot of you would have just seen this compatibility report through a computer horoscope or a computer generated analysis, so as to say, through a software, which is a good way of doing it. They say that whenever the total compatibility which is possible is 36 points between the boy and the girl, and whenever it's above, say, 18 or 19 and 20 and above, it's good. So go ahead and get married, or go ahead and get into a relationship. And the reason of this video, the reason why I'm making this video is, just don't base it according to what the computer says and just see, okay, well, 36 is the maximum, I'm getting 20 or 25, I'm fine, I'll just go ahead and go with this relationship. Try to understand what are the constituents which form this compatibility analysis, what constitutes this 36 points, and how it is to be analyzed from your perspective, whether you're a bride or a groom or a boyfriend or a girlfriend. So that's why it's very important to go and see what do these Kundali Kutas, as what it's called, mean. So as you can see on the screen, that the first Kuta or Kundali matching classification, so as to say, is Varna. Okay, and what is Varna? So we need to understand that. And the maximum point one can get in this Varna compatibility is 1. So, well, Varna compatibility analysis is related to the person's ego. So, and of course, it's divided into 4 parts. It could be the highest point you could get when it's a Brahmin, the second part is the Kshatriya, the third is the Vaishya, the fourth is the Shudra. None of these classifications are above or below each other. They are just 4 different Varna Kutas. so as to say. And then the maximum point here is 1. So it's related to whether the ego compatibility is there between the bride and the groom, or the boyfriend and the girlfriend. So if the varna is the same, and like I said, the varnas are classified into Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. If they are the same, or if the groom's varna is higher than the bride's, well, I could say, well, Brahman is a higher varna than Kshatriya, so on and so forth. That's used to be considered in old days and ages, not anymore. That's why I said it's the same. But then, of course, while doing an analysis, you have to consider Brahman as the highest. So in case they are the same varna, then of course you get 1 point, or you get good points, or the 1 point of the maximum point when the varna of the groom or the boy is higher than the bride or the girl. So that is one way, or one classification of that Kuta matching, or the Kundali matching, or the compatibility analysis matching. And you can see on the screen the maximum points is 1. We move on to the second compatibility, and once again the reason of this video is to understand what do these Kutas or compatibility analysis means. So the second one is Vashya, okay, and that is not ego. The first one was related to the ego of the boy and the girl. The second is related to who controls the marriage. Where is the power equation? That's very important, because two people have to live their lives, the rest of their lives, and like I said, in Hinduism there's no concept of divorce. So what's the power equation? Who controls? Who's the controlling person in the marriage? And who decides, who takes major decisions? So here how it's analyzed is the maximum points are given 2. 2 are the maximum points one can get, and for this analysis, which is the Vashya analysis, where we discuss or we analyze the power equation, the person is divided or classified into 5 types. One is a human, the second is an animal, which is a large animal, the third is a small animal, the fourth is the animals of the sea or the water animal, and the fifth is the insects. So these are 5 categories while doing an analysis as far as Vashya is concerned, which controls the power equation of the marriage. And of course there are full 2 points, and they belong to the same classification, meaning which if they're both humans, or if they're both big animals, or if they're both small animals. And in case they are totally opponents, like for example one is a human and the other is an insect, okay, that's totally different, so then they don't get good points. So this analysis is based on the matching between the boy and the girl, or the bride and the bridegroom, so as to say. The third classification, or the Kuta Kundali matching in a compatibility analysis, is Tara, as you can see, and the maximum points you can get there is 3. And it's basically nothing but a birth star compatibility, what nakshatra a boy is in, and what nakshatra a girl is in, what nakshatra a bride is in, and what nakshatra a bridegroom is in. Okay, so this is matched, and what happens is if the groom's birth star is counted from the bride's birth star, and so if the groom's birth star is, say for example 18 places ahead, so that is divided by 9. Any amount which you get as far as the distance between the groom's nakshatra and the bride's nakshatra, whatever number you get, divided by 9, and then do the same thing with the girl. So whatever the distance is between the girl's nakshatra with the boy's nakshatra, again divided by 9, and then if the remainders are even, it is auspicious, and it's extremely inauspicious if the remainders are odd in numbers. And if one is even and one is odd, there's something in the middle. So that's how the points are allocated as far as this. And this is just a nakshatra analysis. Why? Because nakshatras form a very important part. It's related to the moon. Nakshatra is basically where your moon, which nakshatra your moon was placed at the time of your birth. So you see what nakshatra the moon was placed at the time of the girl, That'll show her kind of her personality, and then look at what nakshatra the moon was placed in the groom's birth chart at the time of his birth, and that'll tell you about the groom's personality or the boy's personality. And then of course I just explained to you how the analysis has to be done. In case the remainders are even, it's perfectly matched. So there are ways, and why I'm discussing is because you should know out of the 36 what represents what analysis, and how the analysis, the complete 36-point analysis, is classified into. The fourth classification is yoni, which is extremely important, because that's about sexual compatibility. Okay, because lots of divorces happen when there's no sexual compatibility. That forms a very important part in a marriage, and of course any kind of romantic relationship. So that the maximum points allocated, this is under yoni, which represents sexual compatibility, is 4. And then of course, based on the nakshatra, this kuta or yoni classification is divided into 14 types of animals, which is constituting of horse, elephant, sheep, dog, cat, so on and so forth. I'm not going to get into that 14 animals here. So if you have the same animal under this compatibility of yoni between the boy and the girl, or the groom and the bride, of course you get maximum points, which is 4 points. In case they're total enemies, the animal classification is enemies. Say for example, it's the cow, the boy is tiger and the girl is cow, which are enemies, complete enemies. Of course they get 0 points. Say for example, if it's the snake and the mongoose, obviously we know that they are enemies, they get 0 points. So and then if they are friendly or in between or neutral, based on that you get points. So the maximum is 4 and the minimum of course is 0. Then the fifth classification of this kuta matching or compatibility analysis, as far as Guna Milan is concerned, Guna Milan or Guna Milan, whichever you can call it, is the fifth classification is Graha Maitri, meaning Graha means planet, Maitri is friendship. What is the planetary friendship? So what we see is what Rashi or what zodiac sign the moon was at the place, or which zodiac sign was the moon was in the girl's chart, and which zodiac sign was the moon in the boy's chart, or the bride's chart or the bridegroom's chart. Where was moon placed in their respective charts? Which Rashi or which zodiac sign? In case they are friends, it could be friends, natural friends, or enemies. So in case they're friends, the maximum points, as you can see on the screen, is 5, so they get 5 points here. And that talks a lot, that I don't need to explain you why the Graha Maitri, or where the moon was placed on the sign, on the zodiac signs in their respective horoscopes. I don't need to go into detail. We know that, if the lords of both, say for example, the boys moon is placed at the time of birth in Leo, and the girl's moon is placed at the time of birth in Sagittarius. So look at the lords. So the lords of the boy, it would be in Leo, it will be Sun, and of course if it's Sagittarius in the girl's chart, where the moon was placed at the time of her birth, it's the lord is Jupiter, and we know that Jupiter and Sun are extremely friendly, so they get maximum points. And of course if the lords are enemies, then of course if, say for example, the girl's moon is placed in Scorpio and the boy's moon is placed in Virgo, and we know that Mercury and Mars are extreme enemies, of course, then they get 0 points. So this is how it's pretty simple, straightforward. But you should know this is about Graha Maitri, this particular, because when you do a complete analysis, you see, well, am I sexually compatible, or am I mentally compatible, or am I compatible as far as the power equation is concerned. So all these things you can see in a very detailed way when you understand these classifications of the compatibility analysis. The sixth classification is the Gana. So the Gana Kut or Gana classification is related to the behavior and temperament. And of course, in this, to find out what temperament it is, the birth starts or the nakshatras, they are divided into 3 parts. And as you know that there are 3 classifications of a personality. What are those 3 classifications? One can be Deva-like or God-like. So that's very sattvic guna. Okay, one could be a human-like, which is more on the rajo guna or the rajas guna. And people who have not watched my earlier videos on gunas, which is the sattva guna, rajas guna, and the tamas guna, please refer to that. So basically, there are three types of natures of behaviors what we can have, which is the sattva guna, the rajas guna, and the tamas guna, and they are classified as devatas or gods, humans or manavas, and then rakshasas or demons, so to say. So then, of course, if they belong to the same gana, means if the nakshatra is godlike in both girls and the boys chart, or the grooms and the bride's chart, of course they get maximum points. And in case they're totally different, say for example, the boy is devata, his nakshatra is ruled by devata, he's devata like or god like, and the girls is more demon or rakshasa like, of course they get 0 because they're total enemies. Devatas and rakshasas, or gods and demons, are enemies. So it's pretty simple. So that will give you an indication of what kind of a temperament both will have, whether there'll be compatibility there in the marriage or not. So a lot of people once again say, well, don't go into this 36 guna, it doesn't make sense. It does. If you go and do a analysis very minutely based on these classifications, you understand this, it makes a lot of sense. And of course this is coming directly from the ancient scriptures, what has been given to us by the sages. The 7th classification of the guna milan is the rashi, or it's sometimes called bha as well, and that is love. So love and sex are two different things. The sex is determined by the yoni. The sexual compatibility is determined by the yoni classification. But Rashi classification is going to determine whether there's love between the partners. So in case, and that's also, of course, everything is related to the position of moon. So all these classifications which we have just discussed is related to the position of moon. So here the way it's calculated is the position of the moon is counted from the position of moon in both the birth charts, or in other words, where moon is placed, which Rashi or zodiac sign moon is placed in a boy's chart, has to be seen how far it is from where the moon is placed in the girl's chart. So if the man's moon is placed 2 houses, 3 houses, 4 houses, 5 houses, 6 houses from the girl's moon, it's considered bad. And then in case the boy's moon is placed 7 and 12 from the girl, or from where the moon is placed in the girl's birth charts, we know what zodiac signs both the girl and the boy have as far as their placement of moon is concerned. So it's pretty simple. So in case the boy's moon is placed 7 houses or 7 zodiac sign away from the girl's moon, or 12 zodiac signs away from the girl's moon, it's considered good. So I'm not going to get into this detail for that, and you don't need to remember it. You just need to remember that while you're analyzing, even if you get it generated through a computer generated, go into these classifications, see what kind and what each classification represents, so that you can understand, oh, well, there'll be love, but they may not be sexual compatibility, or well, there'll be sexual compatibility but may not be love, but oh, there'll be sexual compatibility and love, but they may not be good compatibility related to our behavior and temperament. So this is very important for you to understand these classifications. So without going into the details, basically the Rashi classification or the Bhag classification is related to love, and if you get 7 out of 7 points, of course you'll have love all your life with this partner, which is a very good sign. And if it's 0, there won't be any love, and then there's no love, there's no point in continuing or going for the marriage or a relationship. And the final classification is Nadi. Okay, and that Nadi Kuta or classification, as you can see on the screen, that gives you 8 points, and that is about genetics. And if the genetics are mismatched, there'll be severe health problems, and also sometimes it could be problems in getting progeny as well. So be very careful about, if the Nadi does not match, there could be problems related to progeny. It's not recommended. So just don't go calculate the points all other as matching, and I'm getting, say for example, 25 points out of 36, but in Nadi I'm getting 0. Don't go for it. Why? Because Nadi is very important, because it represents the genetics, and it'll tell you details about whether there'll be a health compatibility or not, whether there'll be problems related to progeny or not. So Nadi classification is extremely important. Even if the points are matching and you're getting high in points and the Nadi is not compatible, please don't go for it. And then of course there's a way to determine this, because the nakshatras are divided into 3 types of nadis. One is a vata nadi, the second is the pitta nadi, and the third is the kapha nadi, and that's based on Ayurvedic principles as well. So I've discussed those in my earlier videos, what is a vata and what is a pitta and what is a kapha. So if you want detailed information on that, please refer to those videos. But vata is basically the air element, pitta basically is the fire element, and kapha is the water element. So people who are familiar with these 3 classifications will understand. And in case here there's a slight difference here. In the elements should not be same, so 0 points are given in case both are vata nadi, meanings both are both nakshatras where the moon are placed. First figure out what nakshatras the moon is placed in, and then in case both are vata nadi or vata nakshatras, not recommended. So here it's slightly different than the other classifications, where it should match, it should be the same as we have discussed along this video. But here in Nadi it should not be the same. So vata nadi, if the boy and the girl both are vata nadi, not recommended. The boy and girl both are pitta nadi, not recommended. And if the vata and the boy and girl are both kapha nadi, meaning which the nakshatra is ruled by both the birth charts, are kapha, not recommended. Okay. And then in case it's different, then of course 8 points are allotted, which is the best. It should not be, make sure it should not be the same. And then once again, very importantly, I'm repeating it, Nadi is very important. Even though other points are high in number out of the 36 and Nadi is not matching, it's a genetic problem and result into severe health problems and problems with the progeny and your children. So hopefully you enjoyed this little video. Like I said in the earlier part of my video, do not base the compatibility just on this analysis of 36 points, which is the Kuta analysis, or the Guna Milan as it's called in generic terms. There are other methods to analyze compatibility, but this is an extremely important, and go into detail. Even if you generate a report through the computer, try to find out. And I hope I have explained you good enough. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. In the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below, and I will see you with an interesting topic on Vedic astrology very soon. Goodbye.